Hi, I'm Bruce Lipton. I'm a cellular biologist, and my research took me to places I never thought I'd ever be. And my research is basically on the nature of how cells and biology work. About 1967, I started cloning stem cells. A lot of people think stem cells are relatively new in our scientific world, but I was actually cloning them 40 years ago. While I was cloning these stem cells, I was also teaching medical students the nature of the foundation of biology and how life worked. During these lectures, I would inform the students of what we were talking about in those days as genetic determinism, the belief that genes control our fate and our destiny in this lifetime. While I was giving lectures to the students about how genes control our lives, I was working on the stem cells. And to clone a stem cell, I would put one single stem cell in a petri dish all by itself. It would divide every 10 to 12 hours. And after about a week to 10 days, I'd have thousands of cells in the petri dish. But what was very unique was all of the cells were genetically identical because they came from the same parent cell. But then things got very interesting when I did the experiment. What I did was take a population of genetically identical cells, split them into 3 petri dishes, and in each dish I provided a different culture medium. The culture medium is the equivalent of the environment to the cell. So when I would change the environment by changing the culture medium, the cells would be exposed to a different reality. Well, interestingly enough, in one dish my cells form muscle, in another dish my stem cells form bone, and in a third dish my stem cells form fat cells. Well, then you're left with a very important question. What controls the fate of the cells? Well, since you started with genetically identical cells, the first thing is genes did not control the fate of the cells. It was the environment. As you change the environment, the cells adjust their genetics to compensate for whatever is going on in that environment. Very interestingly, if I took a plastic petri dish of cells from a healthy environment and moved it to a less than healthy environment, my cells would actually get sick and begin to die. You might ask, Bruce, in this unhealthy environment, what kind of drugs would you give your cells to bring them back to health? And the answer is, no, you don't give the cells any drugs. All you do is take that plastic dish from the bad environment, return it back to a good environment, and the cells will automatically, innately heal themselves, and the cells will start to grow and become healthy again. Now you might say, well, Bruce, that's real interesting. Your environment affects the fate of your cells, but what does this relate to me as a human? Well, then I have to add this interesting understanding, and that is we have a misperception that a human is a single living entity. Well, we perceive it that way because our eyes can't really resolve the detail, and that is this. A human body is not a one thing. A human body is a community made up of 50 trillion cells. It's the cells that are the living entity. Well, the significance about that is, and here's a true statement, and it's kind of fun, a human body is the equivalent of a skin-covered petri dish. That inside, under our skin, we have culture medium that feeds and nourishes the cells and controls their fate. The culture medium is called the blood. The significance between a skin-covered dish and a plastic dish is that both of them have cells, and in both cases they're controlled by an environment, one culture medium, the other blood. If I take a plastic dish and take it to a less than optimum environment, the cells get sick. If I take a skin-covered petri dish called the human body and put it in an environment that's not supportive, the cells in that body get sick. And in both cases, to bring health back is not to give the cells drugs, but to take either the plastic dish or the skin dish and return it to a healthy, supportive environment, and the cells will automatically get healthy again. Well, now you might have to say, so, okay, I'm a skin-covered petri dish, my blood is the culture medium, and the culture medium controls the fate of the cells, and the question is, but what controls the composition of the blood, the human culture medium? And the answer is the brain. The brain releases chemistry into the body in response to our perception of the world. As we change how we see the world, we change the chemistry of our blood. So for example, if you are afraid and you see a threatening world, your brain releases stress hormones into the system, and this changes the genetics and biology of my cells, getting them into a protection response to protect me from a threat. In contrast, if I'm feeling love and harmony in my environment, instead of stress hormones, I release things like oxytocin and dopamine and other chemicals that bring a harmony into the system. So basically, as I change my perception of the world, my brain responds by changing the chemistry of my blood, which is the culture medium. And so different chemistry causes a different response to the biology of your own cells. When we live in fear, when we live in stress, when we live under threat, the culture medium of the blood is not very supportive of growth. In fact, the chemistry of a stressed blood shuts down the growth of a system, because in a stressed person you want to conserve your energy for fight or flight, to protect yourself. So you take the energy away from growth and get it ready for running or fighting to protect yourself. You shut off growth. So the whole idea is this: our cells are controlled not by the genes, but by the composition of the blood, which is in turn controlled by our perception acting through the brain. As we change our beliefs, as we change our attitudes about life, we change the chemistry. When we find ourselves in an environment that supports us, a healthy, harmonious environment, that chemistry provides for health. But as we veer away from that chemistry and get into a more stressful environment, those chemicals actually subvert our health and cause ourselves to get sick. In this case, you might say, well, now that I'm stressed, what drug should I take? And I still return back to the Petri study that says, you don't take the drugs, you change your perception of the environment. And when you do that, you get a chance to recalibrate your blood, recalibrate that growth hormone, and support vital development and health of your own human body.